All right. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of the Owatonna Wrestling Weekly Podcast. I'm Coach Derek Johnson, accompanied as always by Coach Gabe Hovden, our Min USA, Freestyle Greco, and middle school assistant coach, and kind of captain's practice manager, which we'll talk about that. It was great. So going into Season 4.
The 24-25 season.
Yeah, it's flown, honestly. I remember doing these first couple with your dad and just thinking, all these freshmen now, seniors, it's finally, this is kind of the first year where it's hitting me as far as how long I've been actually doing it. But this podcast too, which is always fun to talk about. And the purpose of this first one today is going to be twofold. One, kind of recapping and previewing the season and kind of going through that. But also two, we have an alumni on today, Jerez Autridge, 2020 grad, and wink, wink behind the camera. We already recorded it. So I have a feeling he's very articulate, a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
I could listen, honestly, I could listen to his stories all day.
And how he got there, what he did to get to what he accomplished.
So many life lessons that this young man told. It was incredible. It was like honestly, it was a cool kind of testimonial for the sport of wrestling in general. So that was awesome, or will be awesome.
Yes, it will be awesome. Yeah. I just hope the kids actually listen to what he said.
Yeah, stay tuned.
It was very good what he said on what he did to make himself a better person and a better wrestler.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I wanted to kind of recap last season. I mean, we haven't talked since April about the wrestling program on this podcast. We've both been on the radio a few times and stuff like that. But for those of you who don't know, we lost our captain, the Tower of Power, Grant Lauer, who capped off his career. Did a 180 turnaround from his freshman, sophomore years, ended up being a two-time all-conference wrestler, section champion, on top of the fact that, hey, guess what? He's an incredible student along with his athleticism and a great captain. Always hard to lose him. We lost the second Justin Gronley, the middle, who had been plagued by injuries his entire career, finally got a shot at it his last two seasons, had an opportunity to step in and wrestle at sections, both team and individual. So he got to place at individual sections, kind of mini storybook there too. So we only lost two seniors on a team where we ended ranked in the top 12. We were a one-match swing again away from Northfield in the section semifinals, and just returning a lot of power to this season. And so, we're excited for that fact of this was the year we earmarked in my first year where it's like, okay, because it was a numbers game too.
Yep.
At the time, I think there were 15 of those freshmen. We still have 10 seniors. So a big class.
Yeah, big class.
And that's what we're always looking to do. We talk about this all the time. The success of a program, I think you can measure it equally between 1A and 1B, which is how varsity does. And that 1B is how many K through 12.
Yep.
How many just in total do you have? Because it's a war of attrition. You get to, your later middle school, early high school years when conditioning gets tougher, the training gets tougher, you're going to lose some.
Yep.
Or they start jobs.
Or other things happen in life.
Yeah, exactly. So we know to have a class of, like I said, I think it was like 15 my first year as a freshman class, we knew that they were also highly skilled, but it was just great that we're filling out the room. We're still over 40 wrestlers in the high school room, which my first year, I think we ended like 25.
Okay.
So it's a good sign. Middle school's pushing 30 kids.
Yep. We got a lot of sixth graders this year.
Yeah, which that was the class where we were only expecting like 5.
Yep.
So it's trending in the right direction. OWA youth pushed 100 again, and it's funny because it was told to us. Youth director Zach Spindler is funny because he's like, yeah, we didn't hit 100. Other programs would kill K through 5 for 98 wrestlers,
and that's K through 5, not K through 6.
Right.
So
So that's the goal. We try to have about 20 at the younger ages per class, knowing that by the time middle school hits, it's more like 12. And then to high school, you're trying to keep 9 or 10 per class at that point. It's just how that sport's going to go.
Yep.
And we're going in the right direction that way. So returning our captains, I'll talk about those guys first. Starting off with Lane Karsten. So 3-time state qualifier. Was he? No, sorry. 2-time state qualifier, 2-time section champion. Last year, wrestled on a broken foot.
I was going to make sure we brought that up.
Yeah, in a bracket with 2 ranked wrestlers. Still, it came down to a last-second takedown. So that was disappointing. But then, I mean, just the warrior spirit in him, where he stuck it out. He wrestled 2 more matches on a broken
nobody
foot.
knew about it.
Yep, except for when we're helping him off the mat, basically carrying. I mean, he's hopping off the mat, and the ref's like, "What? Did he get injured?" Like, he probably has a broken foot.
Yeah.
So that type of mentality, that shows you how hard he works. It honestly, that spills over into the practice room, into the classroom. That's really, on top of the accolades, that's what made him a captain. Yep. He was kind of a shoo-in that way. Similarly, Blake Fitcher, the 2-time state place winner. He absolutely ripped through sections last year. Ended the season ranked last year. This year, I think he's ranked 6th to start at heavyweight. That's what I submitted him as, because that was like a month ago.
Yep.
Well, he naturally weighs 215 now. So at the end of the season, he'll kind of decide if he's going to go 215 or heavyweight. But for now, he's going to be our 215, just like he was last year. Multi 30-win seasons for that guy. I mean, I don't know if you paid attention to this football team this year. You heard the name Fitcher a lot, number 10 at linebacker.
Yep.
He destroyed offenses and even came in for some goal line touchdowns as a fullback, which is pretty cool.
And back to just on Blake, one more thing. Talk about a work ethic.
Yeah.
I've seen that kid leave football practice when I've come in for other things, and he is dressed in his work uniform and going to work at 5 o'clock after being in school all day, going through football practice, and he still finds time to keep his grades up and go to work.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just goes to show it can be done.
Right. Yep. So if you're ever on the quick trip at 26th Street,
I was gonna throw a little
if you're
bug
ever
in,
getting your spicy chicken sandwich, you're gonna see a tall, good-looking kid who's probably a little quiet at first.
Yeah,
but that's our.
Or
Blake
if you're
Fitcher.
stopping there to get your little apple pie.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who does that.
Right. Nobody
does.
Nope. Another captain, Isabel Townley, another shoe-in terms of student athlete. Her freshman year took 5th in state. Had incredibly tough brackets since then. So honestly, sophomore and junior year, she was still winning the Simley tournament her sophomore year. Finalist last year to a girl that honestly, Giselle from South St. Paul, who did really well against boys all season.
Yeah.
And Isabel gassed her out at the very end.
And this summer she put in the work. She was at every free. I mean, yes, she did. She was also another one who works during the season, keeps her grades up, keeps eligible for wrestling.
She rolls in lighter, and yet she works at a pizza place.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
She's lighter this year than she was last year, and she works at Taste of the Big Apple. I don't know how you pull that off.
Nope. But yeah, I mean, she was at open freestyle tournaments all summer or all spring.
Part of that Spokane, Washington.
Yeah, she went out to Spokane. We ran into a little hiccup out there with her. She missed the birth date cutoff. So she was actually wrestling freshmen and sophomores in college. Yeah, out there as a junior going into her senior year. The birth date didn't pan out for her, but she went out there and gave it her all.
Yeah. So she's looking. She was quite honestly kind of like a victim of how the sections ran last year, which was they were still running 2 sections, all classes together. And her bracket was huge. I think it was like 17. Yeah. Some of our other girls had brackets of 20, 24.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a true section tournament. This year they finally get it. There's 8 section tournaments. yeah, it's all classes within section one, but
That's
it's
different.
just section one.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. When I went out there last year for the girl sections, and I didn't look at any bracketing. I didn't think anything like this, but then I'm looking at their brackets going, only 2 can go
2
out of 20.
24.
That didn't make a lot of sense to me, but at least they corrected it. And so, quick question on the girls, since is there going to be a girls state tournament separate from the boys this year, or is it still together?
Still together. Okay. So that was on the voting block because we were lobbying to expand out girls. Yep. So we want full wrestlebacks on the boys side and the girls side, which they shot that down. They would have to build in essentially, I think, a whole, they'd have to start Wednesday instead of Thursday. Yeah. That's the holdup, really. They tossed around having the girls tournament in the River Center only, within the building still. But for right now, this is what we're doing. Yeah, I guess baby steps in that. We finally have 8 section tournaments.
Yes, that's good.
That's crucial. Yeah, we needed that one. So that's a 2-day. So that's a 2-day tournament over at Rochester Century is going to be hosting.
Oh, we don't have to go to Redwood Falls this year.
No.
Everybody tried to cram into 2 hotels the whole southern Minnesota.
Yeah, and they made that call 2 weeks before sections. That was fun.
Yeah.
So Isabel, captain, no brainer, leading a room where we have 6 girls in the high school room this year, and so on top of the fact that she earned it, it's also great to have someone worthy of being a captain who's a senior in order to help lead.
And she's been around wrestling long enough that it's not like she just started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
Right.
So.
Yep. And we also now have a dedicated girls varsity coach. That's Mr. Alan Ewell. So Coach Ewell we brought up from the middle school. It's at the point now where girls have a total of 9 events that are separate from the boys on the same Saturdays as the boys. And so it's just, hey, we need another coach. We need someone dedicated because we're trending in the right direction. We're getting more and more girls participating in the sport. And yes, we still practice together right now. But man, if the room gets any more full, we got to figure out some logistics.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's on the horizon too. And then our 4th captain for now, and I say for now because we've had some talks with some seniors and about what they can do to earn that captainship. That closes January 1st. But the 4th one who earned it was RJ Renardi. RJ is, and honestly, I don't think he would mind me saying it. His big pitch was, look, he was the runt of the Renardi boys. He was the youngest. And as a JV wrestler, he felt a little bit kind of disrespected or forgotten. And he just doesn't want other JV kids to ever feel that. And so he's a great locker room guy. He's matured a lot in the last 2 years. Him at captain's practice.
I was going to say at captain's practice, he took control in the right way as a young man, not as a just a typical, non-typical, cocky senior.
Sure.
I hate saying it that way, but no. He asks, he'll give respect as long as he gets respect. Yep. And he still gives respect even if somebody wasn't respecting him as a captain. He's come a long way. He's starting to talk more. He's not just sitting on the back burner and giggling.
Yeah. I think he recognized, he truly did that. At first he was just kind of the little brother and kind of the mascot and stuff like that. And, but he recognizes his own importance. He is a good glue to have in the room.
Yes, he is.
So congratulations to RJ too. So now I want to talk about the people that have qualified for state before, kind of the returning section champions or state participants, and junior Trey Hyatt. So this is year number 5 in the varsity room for Trey, ever since 7th grade. So last year he qualified for the second time for the state tournament and did so in very exciting fashion, getting a pin over Zane Engels, Fargo place winner, a guy who always had his number, it seemed like. And it was a tie match, I think, in the 3rd period, and through a scramble, hooked up a near side cradle, rolled it through a la Bubba Jenkins pinning David Taylor, that style roll through, got the pin. It was exciting. So he was another guy who his section bracket was Trey had been ranked at one time during the season. Zane Angles had been ranked. And Ignashevsky, the younger brother of who you're going to hear about, also ranked. So it was a really tough section, and he came out of it. He also had a 1-point match against Ignashevsky. So he's determined. He wrestled a lot this summer with guys like Landon Robidoux, multi-state champion from STMA, Pero from Farmington, all these guys. He's been going with the best in the state when he practices on nights and weekends. So he seems more dedicated than ever for that. And then Caden Lindquist, finally a freshman.
Yes.
2-time state qualifier. Very, very close last year. He was still relatively undersized. So now he's going to be starting the season at 114 and a pretty decent size 114. He's grown a lot in height, and he'll be coming down later on in the season as a gigantic, strong, fast 107 pounder. And he's ranked second in the state at 107.
Okay.
And I should have mentioned Blake Fitcher ranked, RJ Renardi ranked, Lane Karsten ranked, and Trey Hyatt might as well be. He should be ranked. And so Isabel too. We submitted her for 106 rankings, and it's pretty stacked right now, but I'm pretty confident she'll get some clutch wins under her and get in the rankings. And then Aaliyah Fisher, also finally a freshman, 2-time state place winner on a broken ankle, maybe 2 last year. That poor thing has had quite the off season of just surgeries. Yeah. And so imagine what she can do on 2 good legs.
Yep.
But yeah, she is wise beyond her years. She is always looking to improve. She literally did that after practice today, asking about some technique from the bottom and stuff. So she's put in tons of work as well. This was the first off season where she wasn't winning every national tournament because guess what? She was injured.
She had a boot on both feet.
She was on a scooter.
On a scooter the whole summer.
Yep. Otherwise, she would have been.
Yep.
So she's returning. She's in the rankings at 142. So a really solid core of returning state experienced wrestlers.
And she's ranked at what?
142.
142. Third at 142.
Yep.
Okay.
Even though probably 148 is in her future. But, so legitimately tough team coming back. We started the Minnesota USA had us ranked 8th. Guillotine just came out with their first rankings. They have us 11th, which is mind-boggling. We're behind Chaska-Chan, who we literally beat last year. And we returned everybody, and they didn't. Yeah. They lost Dragos and the older Gillette, but okay. Yeah. And then, so we're behind Anoka, who we might see this Saturday. We're behind Northfield, Albert Lee, which, once again, Northfield was 2 different one-swing matches last year. Albert Lee's returned a lot. They're pretty darn solid. However, this is kind of the year. This is Logan Davis is a senior. Collins is a senior. Corman's a senior. Ignashevsky. Like, I think the Attic boys, like, they're really close to kind of hitting a cliff for a while. Their youth is really good right now too. But we got to be ready for it, and I think we're ready to take that next step. We've literally improved every single season in how we end up in conference and sections and the guillotine rankings. So, okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about some fun returners though too.
Yes.
So we have someone like Max Flemke, who's going into his 4th year in the wrestling room. We actually grabbed him in 8th grade. Needed him at 220 as an 8th grader. Max is very delighted. This is a big news, guys. He's a heavyweight, and he is so excited. Max, because of football, once again, part of that incredible state semifinalist team, D lineman, and last year, same thing, D lineman, but we asked him to go down to 189 So he was immediately on the descent after the football season. This year, we're like, you know what? All right, you really want to be heavyweight. You're loving 230 type of deal. He moves pretty well, and he's already very, very strong for a heavyweight. And so him and Blake Fitcher swapped. But once again, there is kind of that warning that, hey, Fitcher may want to go heavyweight for individual sections at the end of the year. So keep that in mind.
Yep.
And you see the path if you want to get down to 215, but we don't necessarily need that decision now.
Yeah.
So that's a good returning wrestler. In the middle, kind of the 1-2 punch that we had last year at 5260, Riley Krieger and Carter Flatland are flipping. Carter's going to stay at 160, where he was last year as kind of a light 160 and did really well. And Riley's going up to 172. And Riley's, 7'3" now. They're both, those two back-to-back are the strongest looking. They are the strongest wrestlers on the team, but they're also like absolutely jacked.
Yeah, they look the part. They both look the part.
Yeah, so that's a fun kind of 1-2 punch. There's, some returning, Jaden Jurley returning all conference at 139. He didn't get a postseason last year because he had multiple concussions. And so it's exciting to get him back, though, and get a real shot at 139. I think he can be really successful. And sorry. And then Colton Glendy also last year was an 8th grader wrestling 145 and took 3rd in the section behind 2 guys that placed at state.
Yeah.
Like he's right there. So that'll be exciting to see what he's able to do now that he's filled into the 152 position. Jacob Wilson down at 121, maybe going down to 14 when Caden goes down. We'll see. But Wilson was, a 107 pounder wrestling 114 last year and still was pretty darn dangerous.
Yeah. He still held his own.
Yeah. So it's good to see that. It's good to see. I know here's some names that you'd recognize that Ryan Feltz, senior Ryan Feltz. Feltzy is a team favorite. And I don't know if I'm sure you out in the community have walked around and tried to lock up with him suddenly on the street. He is the strongest. Oh my gosh.
He's got this strength that is wicked.
Yeah. He's 189 pounds, probably 5'4".
And he's just a little box.
Yep.
And that's all you can say. He's just a little wooden box that is, you wouldn't think it. And then once he grabs a hold of you, it's like, whoa.
And he, around 189, sorry about that, might get a little bit of, we'll see. There's talk about RJ going down to 172 later on in the season. 170 or 189, we'll probably get a healthy dose of Ryan Feltz, which is great to see. Yep. Logan Risser, Peyton Gleasing, who just got huge as well. Like he's 189. He was always like our 45, 52. So to see him get big is awesome. Parker Casas, the poor kid has been behind Trey Hyatt, Lane Karsten, Jaden Jurley his entire career. And so looking at for him like 139 this year, by the time tournament season comes around, he's the hardest working kid.
Yes.
National Honor Society, and just a very good example for a lot of the young guys. And we want people like that to get their due.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jerez is going to talk about it. Like some people just deserve it.
Yep. Yeah. And they put in the work, and no matter what happens, they're still there.
Exactly.
And it just goes to show a work ethic and how they're going to be in life in general after wrestling.
Yeah. And then, so I've talked a little bit about Caden Lindquist going from 114 to 107. Well, that means at the beginning of the season, we're going to have Miles Ozzie. Been waiting for him to grow forever. Freshman coming in at 107. One of our year-round guys, one of the guys that loves Greco, loves traveling. He was on, along with Caden Lindquist, he was on the Minnesota
Schoolboy team.
schoolboy team out in Pennsylvania and did really well out there. And his thing, like I said, has always just been growing. Like he's probably a 103 pound, 107 pounder. So he's given up some weight and, but he's fiery, has a motor that doesn't quit, very, very quick. I mean, very fast wrestler. And also a huge fan of it. His curiosity, he loves talking moves, talking wrestling. So that's good to see too. Is finally get some of those guys. And then on the girls' side, talked about some of those big brackets. Michaela Salee last year, first year wrestler as a sophomore, goes out, takes fourth in a bracket of 24 girls.
24 girls, yes.
Yeah. And like to see her progression was, I mean, she's a sponge. And she's also one of the hardest workers because she does do MMA in the off season. Yeah. She was fighting in August.
Yeah.
She literally said she knocked out someone with a kick like to the face. And she goes, I felt bad for her. Like, poof. Yeah. And this is the sweetest.
Yeah. Quietest.
Oh yeah. Most polite. She's already, I think an RN, like she works at a nursing home. Yeah.
Because she would call and say, oh, I can't make practice tonight. I got to work. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then she would actually send a selfie in her nurse's uniform
to
give me proof that she was actually working, because I get that excuse a lot. And then I would, harass some people. And I get the excuse, oh, I got to work. Then all the other wrestlers write them off, and then whether at the movies or something. But, but nope, she would actually send proof to that group text that she was actually at work.
Yeah, so she's going to be in kind of in those upper 130s, most likely. And then Lucinda Ornelas.
Yes, another sophomore, big bracket.
Yeah, another huge bracket. Also took fourth, I believe.
Yep.
Out of 18 or 19. And was undersized like last year. She was... she'll tell you she was cutting weight, Lucinda. You weren't cutting weight.
You weren't.
At 100 pounds. But incredibly tough bracket.
Yes.
And like really turned a lot of heads. She, for instance, at Simley's a big girls tournament. And I think she lost first round, but then wrestled all the way back. So had like 4 more matches. And she was tech falling, like returning state place winner. She was just
dominating.
A beast. Yep. Yeah, it was like really her believing in herself was a big turning point because she, always, word is from middle school that she was just kind of down on herself and just not believing.
And her match before, to go to third or fourth or to first or second, I was sitting there watching. Them two refs had no control over the match. There was about a 45-second break when Lucinda was actually coming on, and that girl was gassing. And
that's right. On the video, they didn't even call stalling.
They didn't even call stalling. She just sat on the side of the mat, and the refs just kept saying, "Come on." And there was stalling 2 to 3 times where she just sat there, and Lucinda's back at the center waiting, and it's like you only can say so much to the refs before they'll say something back. But yeah, she was right there.
And she wrestled the same girl twice. Those were her only 2 losses. Yep. I think she went like 5-2 or 4-2. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
I mean, we have some tough. And then Kayla Pastica, another one who, please put quarters in her shoes. Like just keep her above the minimum.
Yes, get that weight on her.
Yeah, she'll be at 100.
Yeah. So this year she placed 4th out at Fargo. This is her first year. I didn't know this when we went out to Spokane, Washington for the Girls World Trials. That was her second freestyle tournament, and she placed 7th.
Second
freestyle tournament ever is at the World Trials, and she places 7th. It's like holy. And then she continued to wrestle freestyle throughout the year. She ended up taking out at Fargo, taking 4th. She wrestled on the girls Fargo team. I personally didn't get to get out there to watch her to see what all happened. But that girl, if she could just put on about 7 pounds, 7 pounds, she would be unstoppable.
Yeah,
I mean, she's given up though. The only time I see her by chance losing, if she does this year, is because she's smaller.
Yeah.
And it's just the size. It's not the
And I don't know if
technique.
you looked at the rankings. I mean, you got Maggie Olson's ranked again at 100. I'm like, she's like 5'9".
Yeah.
Like,
how's that girl going to make it?
I know. Ava Schultz is back at 100. So, yeah, I mean, Kayla as a freshman is going to be an undersized 100. Yep. Probably going to top out at the 106 weight class as a senior.
Yeah.
Like the way it's going.
Yeah.
So either way, she's going to be a powerhouse in these weight classes, 100 and 106, her whole career.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I mean, there's other names that you'll recognize that have been instrumental. Nathan Gronley, Caden Keller. You know, I don't necessarily want to leave anyone out, but we'll also have these people on as the season goes on. And because I could talk about this forever. And I know I have a hunch that Jerez does a really good job talking through his entire career, but we're probably bordering on like a 90-minute podcast.
I just looked up at the clock. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like all the practices are done. Lights are getting shut off. Yeah. But yeah, the point is this is going to be a really fun season. This is like the first turning point. Last year 2 years ago, we got over the Rochester Mayo debacle. Last year we got over Faribault. This year I predict we get over Northfield and give Albert Lee a really hard run for their money too. So it's going to be exciting. To all the people out there, I also want to say, yes, we're planning on more home meets next season. This season really didn't work out. For instance, the Davis duels. We had a lot of teams that all of a sudden, we're double booked. About a month ago, let me know. It's like, okay. So it's not that we're discontinuing that forever. We're bringing that back next season. We're just kind of playing with, honestly, Saturdays are all booked up. Every team knows what they're going to do the next 4 years on each particular Saturday. Fine. We'll probably have to figure out a good Thursday night or something like that to do it over and stick with that and try to get some really tough teams and everything. But we are hosting a couple of duels January 23rd, and then again, I believe it's February 9th. So just the 2 home meets this year. This is also, we're sitting in the high school right now, a very coveted place. So it is booked solid. Every single night is absolutely booked solid in the gyms with varsity sports, not just, or varsity activities too. Owatonna, I don't know if you understand, is really good at everything right now. Like, we actually are very good at everything. Like, I work in Albert Lee now. They just don't know. And so they're like, oh, you have a good wrestling team. I'm like, well, yeah, and our football team's in the state semis. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's great. I'm like, do you guys have lacrosse? I'm like, yeah, we won the conference last year. Do you guys have gymnastics? Yeah, they took second in state. Yeah. Track and field? Yeah, we took second in state. Yeah. Like it's like every single activity, sport, name it. I mean, marching band is second in state. Our speech team all plays super high. Our robotics program is second to none. Like, name the activity. Well, they all want the same, we're hosting a ton of stuff.
Yeah, they want to be in the school too.
Yeah. So I'm sorry we have to share a little bit, and that's just kind of how the season fell. But I promise we're going to bring back many more home meets because I love showing that place off. I love to be under the lamp. And I want to get back under that. So
before we head off, when is your first when's your first match or tournament coming up?
Yeah. So we're recording this on Monday, December 2nd. Our first varsity and JV meet is this Saturday, the 7th, up at Woodbury. We did it last year. We have Simley there, second ranked in Class AA. Stillwater, ranked third in AAA. Anoka, ranked 9th in AAA. Farmington, ranked in the top 12 as well. It is a meat grinder of a day.
It's a good way to start.
It's a good wake-up call. It's a good jump start. The week after that, we shook up the conference calendar. So Thursday, December 12th is our big Northfield meet already. Typically, that had been in January. The conference schedule got shaken up a little bit this year for the better. We won't have Winona head-to-head ever again. But with that comes, a little scrambling. And so Northfield's right around the corner, extremely quickly coming up here. And then for everyone in the wrestling community, please come out December 9th. What is it? 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're hosting a tournament every single day, starting with the girls' classic tournament on that Friday.
Yep.
That middle school Stockwell's all day Saturday. Min USA qualifier on Sunday. It's just great wrestling, all ages. We love the support. We brag all the time about how good our community is at showing up to events. And so I really need us to rub it in all the other communities' faces. So I appreciate you being there.
Yep. And then with the junior high, we start tomorrow at Mankato with Mankato. I want to say Mankato, Austin, and I think it's both Mankatos and Austin.
Mankatos, yep.
And Austin tomorrow. And then we go to New Prague on Saturday for our first tournament. So, and
they'll have like Scott West there. They'll have some real teams.
There's I think there's 8 there. Yep. Plus the New Prague varsity. There's a varsity match is going on at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the varsities are doing a duel in the big gym. We're in the Ox gym with all the junior high, and I think the JV takes 2 mats in the Ox gym.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's going to be a lot of wrestling in that room.
That's awesome. Well, sounds good. And yeah, thanks, Coach.
Yes.
Coming up next, we have Jerez Autridge, 2020 grad. And then, yeah, we will talk to you next week. We'll start having some scores, and we're going to start bringing on our captains too and get some good interviews in, and always bring you incredibly hard-hitting content like that. Please follow Owatonna Wrestling Association on the Facebook, YouTube. It's OHS Husky Wrestling on Instagram. There's a TikTok. I forgot what name it was.
Oh, we got TikTok?
Oh, yeah, we got TikTok. And we just had a really cool media day. So a lot of cool hype videos and everything are coming out of that. Mr. Scott Summer of Summer Media Solutions.
Thank you very much, Scott.
You really said areography, but Summer Media Solutions, who does all of our social media, a lot of our print content, video content, this podcast, which takes editing and everything, which you can find on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are aggregated. I heard that the other day. So yeah, please follow us, and we look forward to talking with you next week.
Have a good week.
All right. Welcome back to the Owatonna Wrestling Weekly Podcast. We're here with our inaugural guest of the 2024-25 season. Jerez Autridge is here. And I just asked you, what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2020, so I was a COVID year graduate.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, that's how some would say.
That made it. Well, we'll get back to that part. But so take us through a little bit of your family, your stock, who you came out of, who got you into wrestling, things like that.
I was kind of an accident in terms of wrestling. I come from a baseball family.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was supposed to be a 3rd-generation baseball player. And my mom has a funny story about when I was a kid, I chucked a remote at her face or something. She thought I was going to be a pitcher, but...
She saw the silver lining in it of like how fast.
She was upset, but she was like, God, this kid's got an arm, so there's potential there. But no, I didn't really necessarily grow into that. I actually was just doing football and some other sports because I was at the age of like 3rd grade where I just saw other guys doing sports, so I thought it was cool. I hated sports at the time, ironically enough.
Okay.
And I saw wrestling, like a little flyer at lunch one day, and I just plucked it up and brought it home to mom. And she's like, why would you want to do wrestling? And I mean, 14 years or whatever later, here we are. But
yeah,
went to a couple practices, absolutely hated it. Went to another year, went to more practices, absolutely hated it. And then come 6th grade, I started losing a little bit of weight, gaining some speed, and got my first win, then got on a little roll with a couple wins at the end of my 6th grade season. I realized, sport's not too bad if you can pick up a couple wins instead of getting smoked all the time.
Yeah.
Well, good on you for sticking with it. I mean, going through a couple of seasons like that, especially being a little out of your weight class up a little bit, that can be rough because I'm sure you went through like taller, wiry, stronger kids in those first couple of years.
I was a little chubster. I was
trying to be
shorter
kind with that.
yeah, for sure. A perfect wrestler build to start off with.
Sure.
Default kit. But
oh, well, that's awesome. So it was picking up a few moves, and I suppose getting rewarded with a few wins here and there doesn't hurt at all.
It's definitely a plus. I wasn't even technical for quite a bit either. I was definitely the type where like I'd be in a hand fight and I'd be getting smacked around a little bit, and come third period I'd just get upset and I'd shoot a blast double or like throw a headlock or something. My parents and my grandparents just tell me the same thing because they thought they found a cheat code. They'd be like, you should just get angry at the beginning of every match. You should get upset. I mean, it's a lot different when a kid's snapping my face in a sweaty mat for 6 minutes.
Right.
There's some build up to it. But
and when you're both fresh, I mean, if you hulk out, you could just flame out really quick,
that strat didn't necessarily pan out too much in terms of trying that. My grandpa's just too nice to get at me either. He try to poke at me a little bit, and it's just an entirely different approach. So
that's great. So leading into middle school, you have a little bit of steam and probably a little bit of passion for it, like wanting to work on it and everything. How did middle school go?
Middle school is cool because I had a buddy that moved out to Pennsylvania, actually, but his name was Dylan Sheehy. I don't know if that would ring a bell at all.
Yep.
Coach Hovden.
Yep. I know the name.
Yeah, he went on to wrestle for West Point in college now too. So he was another guy. He was one of my practice partners and one of my good buddies that, on or off the mat, we'd always be kind of poking at each other, just trying to anger each other whenever we could, tugging at each other, just shoving it over like whenever, just something to get on the other guy's nerves. But it was good for us at that age because you need someone to compete with.
And for sure.
There wasn't necessarily any of the other guys our size that, we could match or resonate that attitude. So come 7th grade, I know Dylan and I were competing for MVP for our team. So like I said, at end of 6th grade, I picked up a couple wins. And then 7th grade's when I really started to feel myself develop. And that's when I knocked off a couple kids like the first time, where those are some of the names I hear nowadays, where like I know one of them that I remember pretty well is Roman Rogotsky.
Oh, yeah.
Buddies with him now, but I know that's one that I beat in the state tournament as a kid and went over to sit on my bench, and 6 kids come up to me and they go, "You beat who? You beat who?" And I'm like, I have no clue about the sport.
Right.
I just know apparently it's an important name. So it was a couple ones like that, learning about it. I mean, looking at it now, Roman's way better than me. He's D1. He's doing pretty good, but
he's at Indiana.
I believe so. Yeah, he's done good, but just ones like that. And then at the end of the season, I think I got most improved and Dylan got MVP, and he beat me by like 16 points.
Oh, geez.
So it was one of those where, it was a bitter taste, but it still felt good having that opportunity. And then Dylan and I were both approached by Coach Castile at the time too.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's when we got pulled up together 8th grade year. So that's where I say me and him were buddies, because we at the time we'd have to get bussed over from the junior high after practice, and we're the 2 youngest guys in the locker room. So there's a lot of camaraderie there in terms of us just kind of having each other's back. It's intimidating walking in a room with
for sure
guys like Brandon Moen, Peyton Robb, Cade King. Like our lineup at the time was insane looking back at it now, but those are some intimidating guys, and you're a little 14-year-old walking in and you see Peyton tossing everyone, or Brandon and Peyton looking like they're ready to kill each other.
So who did you go with in that room then? Like besides Dylan, like when you got brought up in 8th grade?
Dylan, when we got pulled up at the time, was bigger than me. I forget I think it was Bryce Goodwin.
Oh, sure.
Was the first name that I remember, where I would go with other guys like Taylor Hall or Parker Ozzie.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking, because this was a pivotal moment for me. I think it was 8th grade. I'd go with a lot of those guys. And I was kind of comfy. I started off junior high or not junior high, JV, and then I progressed into varsity halfway through the season. But I think it was either 8th grade or freshman year, I got thrown by Gavin Ignashetsky at a home Albert Lee Owatonna duel. And I remember that so well too, because throughout college and high school, that's the only time I've been pinned. So
wow.
that was definitely something that stuck with me. And I know I went to the back and I started punching an air vent. And I think it was Scott Sikora came back there. And I'm a kid with tears running down my face. I'm screaming, hitting inanimate objects, which sadly is just a part of the sport. I feel like, it helps develop. But, he told me something that like I still remember to this day. And he said, "You're so upset because you care."
Yep.
And I think that's something that's stuck with me because, you do get whatever you display the most emotion in, whether you're happy or you're upset, it does mean you care. And that's something that I took with me, and I looked at him and I was like, what do I do to get better? I never want to feel like this again. And that's when I started getting my butt whooped a little bit more by guys like Bryce Goodwin, because I think at the time I was probably a 13-pounder, and Bryce was our starting 138. So I remember getting tossed up and down that room, and I was sweating and panting. I'm laying on my back, sprawled out at the end of the day. And this is the first day I went with Bryce. And I think Scott came over to me and he's like, "Good practice today." Yeah. This is one of those, "Good job today." Everyone else is circled up, like ready to talk. And I'm like, I need a fiver. I'm not ready to get up. But
that's the thing, is sprinkling that in and like stepping up to the challenge, because not that you want to go against 5 guys that are all that much bigger than you, but every once in a while you need, I would compare it to like a donut on a baseball bat when you're in the on deck circle and you're swinging that. You're used to going against heavier things, and then the second you're with just the bat without the donut on it, suddenly that high crotch hits and they're not just landing on you. It makes you sharper. And so Bryce, was that for you?
Yeah, he was definitely the guy that I learned, I can be a little more aggressive in my hand fights. All right, this is where I can boost my conditioning. And like you said, if I'm wrestling a 145, 138 pounder every day and I'm 113, 120, those little guys, you're going to move a lot easier than moving Bryce was.
Yeah, so, suddenly you're throwing them around like, oh my God. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So 8th grade, worked your way into varsity. So that was good. How did that season end?
I think it went pretty good. I think because I'm pretty sure 8th grade, I started like 12-1 or something on JV. And that was the point where Castile was like, "All right, you're ready for varsity. You can try something a little more difficult." Because I was nervous. I'm still learning about the sport at the time, so I didn't really understand what was going on. But Dylan had been on varsity, and then I got pulled up. I switched to actual varsity. I started starting in duels, and I know the first duel that we started at the same time though. They would put them out as a backup or whatever, but it was our first time starting at a duel. And this is just another case of us one-upping each other. I got my first, takedown win, pin. I got a win the first one, and it was a try, so I got my pin my second match. Dylan comes over, he goes, "I did all of it in my first match." He got his first takedown win and pin all in like the first 2 minutes of his match. So just from there, that competitiveness, cool. Once again throughout the season. But yeah, I think it went pretty good. I want to say 10-4 or something the rest of the season throughout varsity. And then going back to me getting pinned, now it's coming back to me my freshman year. That's where that frustration had come from.
Oh, okay.
Because I was wrestling smaller guys, and I think I went up to 126. And then that's when I bumped into guys like Gavin Nishetsky and those guys where, there's a little bit more muscle, more brawn. There's not as many 8th graders and freshmen going against you. So.
And they were probably cutting down and you were coming up.
Yeah, I think Gavin was a junior or senior at the time. And I was just slightly a little cocky freshman thinking, I ran through these JV guys. Varsity's got to be the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was how many matches in did you realize like, oh, JV and varsity is completely 2 different animals?
I think I was about 6 matches deep or something my freshman year because I was like 3-3, and I was like, I haven't sucked this bad in like 3 years. I'm like, what are they feeding these kids? Like I said, I picked up the sport on accident, so at this point I was just athletic, and I'm just thinking to myself like, they got to be teaching them something I don't know or like what, but. It's just all coming back to, learning more about yourself and asking your coaches. That's why, I sat down with like Castile or Waitala or Sikora, and I'd ask them, what do I need to do? Like, you guys obviously understand the sport and have been in it way longer than me. So they kind of helped me paint that picture.
Nice. And then, so you're gaining steam. How'd freshman end up into sophomore, into junior, into senior?
Sophomore year, I felt like I was gaining some momentum. It wasn't the prettiest season, but I could definitely feel the potential in the sense of I think I had an okay record, like 18-13 or something. So
what weight were you at that time?
at the time, sophomore year, I was at the weight that I would stay the rest of my high school career. So sometimes they would allow me to go to 38, but typically I was a 45-pounder wrestling up from 38 because I couldn't break through the lineup.
Okay.
So that's where I was at. Sophomore year went pretty good. I want to say, like I said, that was like 18-13, something a little better than 500, but not an outstanding season. And then I took a step back because I tore my ACL for the first time, pole vaulting in my off-season sport. So I was doing track and field, and I was a sprinter, and my field event was pole vaulting, and I came down in the pit, and my ankle kind of landed weird. I landed in the actual metal pit, and my knee just buckled inward towards my other. And I think the doctor said my shin touched my femur, my bones just ripped apart. So tore my ACL, MCL, PCL, LCL, and both meniscus. So I did a good deal on it for sure. And so lots of rehab there. Missed football season, missed wrestling season, and did get a ring out of football that season being on the bench. So it was not the worst thing. But
you would have been in there, though.
You
would have been in there.
Jason Williamson was ready.
You probably would have run up the score if you were in there.
It would take some reps from him. But yeah, and so I was pretty motivated. And I talk about this a lot. And I talked about this with my collegiate coach, Jim Bukowski, where I think it might have been something that pushed me even more so to get into college wrestling, because I realized how much I missed the sport at the time. And I was watching, that's when I really got into watching college wrestling. At the time, you're seeing guys like Spencer Lee or Gable Stevenson come up, and you're watching their technique. And I'm getting so excited watching these because I'm thinking about coming back from my knee that I didn't realize all the technique I was picking up by just visualizing it. And I think that's something that's really powerful, that, you can sit there and you can do the moves, but you can also learn just as well from watching it every day and, understanding why these guys are choosing these positions and, just watching the different styles and approaches and methods and seeing how these guys analyze the sport as a whole.
I think I need you to come to the junior high and explain what you just said to every one of them, because we have them watch YouTube videos. Just watch wrestling. Just watch it. And we still don't know who is actually doing it or not yet, but we've been saying it every day at the end of practice. Hey, when you're sitting on your phone, YouTube wrestling, just watch any kind except for the WWF stuff. I did not have anybody ask me this year about that. Can we do this move? No, that's the wrong kind of wrestling. So
middle school is a little different animal. Yeah. So then senior year, you're all amped up. You've been itching for it. You now are extremely motivated to go out with a bang. How'd that go?
I wrestled. That was the first year I did any off-season stuff. I know coaches always ripped at me to go try it, but that was the first one that I was actually so eager that I went out and tried it. I forget what his first name is. I did a freestyle and Greco tournament, and the freestyle portion of it, the first match I had back, it was even until late second period, but it was something Sabas or whatever. He wrestled for the U, and he's a 2-time state champ from Apple Valley.
Oh, okay.
So that was a good little welcome back. It was going pretty good, and then halfway through the second period, he got a leg lace on me, and he teched me. So just the way freestyle is too, catches you and something like that.
Yep, the leg lace.
And now the gut. Now you can keep rolling through the gut.
You can keep rolling through with everything.
It was a tough one. But then I came back, began the season. The first one I went out, I wrestled one of my current teammates' brothers, Gavin Anderson from Northfield. I wrestled him. I just about teched him, and I was really close to pinning him. It was one of those awkwards. I was up 12-1, had him on his back, and I'm getting greedy, trying to stick him instead of contemplating what I could really do with the situation. But something that felt really great for me was I got off the mat, and Waitala helping boost my confidence of, trying to get the nerves out and feel comfortable back he's like, the Northfield coaches just came up to me. They asked if we just recruited you from a different school or something. I was like, I forgot that quick that I was going 1 year, but I take that as just more fire. It's a backhanded compliment.
Right, yeah.
Like, who is that kid? And he was been on your team. So it was something nice. But I went on, and then it was Keeler Carlson I found him in the championship like 3 matches later at the Faribault Invitational. So I think I lost to Keeler like 6-3 or something. I got the first takedown or whatever, and he's just a tank on top. So he's a good Stillwater boy. But that was my welcoming back. So 3-1, getting second at the Invitational in Faribault. That wasn't terrible, but rest of the year, I really started to gain some momentum. I think I ended my senior year, I went like 30-9. So, and there's some tough guys in there. I know the Clash is a good story I have because I think out of those 9 losses, I think I picked up 4 at the Clash. So
right.
That's
ran into some buzzsaws there.
Yeah, some kids from Cali, some kids from like Pennsylvania or something, just some hammer states. And I didn't help myself because that was the worst weight cutting experience I had, because the day before I thought the scale was broken until I realized I was actually 9 pounds over.
Oh.
So never missed weight, but that was not a fun experience at all.
Ended up having to do it the wrong way.
Yeah, no, yep. I know that practice didn't go great too, because I was sitting there while Waitala's giving everyone a leisurely day. I'm jumping rope with 2 sets of sweats on everything, and he'd rotate out and have like Woody or someone show some technique. That way the coaches could trade off in the corner wrestling me live while everyone else is just getting to relax. So, but yeah, that was a tough one. And then that year my brackets were just stacked everywhere, because I know I ran into Cole Glazier a couple times. I ran into sorry, I'm trying to think again. We had 3. Luke Peterson, that was another name that I saw, and then there was another Cade Sheehan, and I think Daigle was in there too. So all those guys went on to wrestle in college, except Sheehan, because he got a football scholarship. So they're all solid. But yeah, I know the 1 and 2 from my section bracket ended up getting 2 and 3 at state.
Yep.
And they lost, I think it was Peterson lost to Trey Cruzy in the final. And Cruzy went on to be a Boilermaker, so he's wrestling at Purdue. But it was just a tough draw. Finally, my senior year, feeling great, wrestling the best I ever have, and then I come back and my section bracket's full of future collegiate wrestlers. So, and Cole's a great kid too. I know his family a little bit. His older brother Zach Glazier, I've talked to them a couple times, but they're some nice guys. He's an All-American, I think, as a sophomore already. So for St. Cloud State, and then obviously his brother's doing good too. Yeah. So just a solid family. That's another memory I just got, is at Christmas tournament. I remember Cole taking me down like the first period or whatever, and I look up and I see Zach Glazier just coaching a foot away from my face, and I'm like I'm supposed to beat a kid from this family. Like, a lot of pressure here, especially when I see kids like Cade King and, Glazier and King went back a lot in high school.
Historically.
Yeah. So watching that, and I'm thinking about that in my head too. I'm like, if Kinger can't beat his brother, like, how am I supposed to beat the younger one? So, but it was
awesome.
It was a tough draw, but I'm overall happy with my senior season. It is what it is at the end of the day, but it's one of those things where I feel like it's just that saying of, be happier that it happened rather than,
Oh, yeah. Well, and what if you would have missed out because of your knee? What if it would have been 1 year later?
Yeah.
You'd rather have that shot at coming back and everything. So,
Team state was cool too, because I know Isaiah Nolner and I were both captains, and we got 4th that year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the highest we got since like our freshman or my 8th grade year, when like Peyton and Moan and those guys were captains. So that was something that Isaiah and I took, where, we might not have the caliber of talent of guys such as Peyton or Moan, but we were able to form a team with the chemistry and like work ethic to work.
The work ethic and the heart.
Yeah, I think culture is a big thing too. It's a lot different when you got a bunch of studs, but it's also different when, you might have a 500 kid, but he's going to do everything to not disappoint his teammates on the bench. So motivation is a big thing for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. That's perfectly stated. So appreciate that. Now you're at Minnesota State Mankato.
I just graduated.
Oh, you just graduated? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. So how'd that go?
It was a tough run also because had some more knee bump-ins and then obviously COVID. So like I said, I graduated in 2020.
Yeah.
And that first year, I remember there were so many regulations that I think we had 6 duels the whole year. Jeez. And so we did not have our regular dual schedule. We did not do opens at all. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything. So guys like me that were coming in, it's basically you make weight and that's that for the sport for you. So there wasn't much. We got maybe 1 or 2 exhibitions. I was lucky enough to get one in like the 5th duel. Okay. And that was a welcome to college moment when I lost like 6-3 and I got hit with the quickest little single I've felt in 4 years. But yeah, that was freshman year. A lot of lifting in garages, a lot of spitting in tubes for COVID tests. And then sophomore year, it tapered off a little bit more. So we got to feel somewhat of what a normal year was. But then unfortunately, I was practicing. We had inner squads. And I was wrestling my buddy, Kyle Rathman. He's a 3-time All-American and couple-time place winner from Apple Valley. But Kyle's a solid wrestler and solid guy. And he picked me up in a single, and I would drop into a splits to defend it up until that day because his shoulder dropped into my knee, and I hyperextended it. And I'm pretty sure that's when I pulled it again or torqued it. But I had to wrestle another inner squad match right after that, so that probably didn't help it much. So second knee injury, going on to junior year. Then I come back towards the end of it. I think I got 1 open in at the Eau Claire Open at the end of the year. Went 2-2, so not the worst thing. Again, not the best, but getting back on the mat, getting a feeling. Then senior year, finally after going through COVID and 3 knee injuries or whatever, because I don't know if I stated that right. I tore my knee 3 times. Jeez. I think junior year I had another meniscus surgery because we were playing ultimate frisbee on an off day. So that was just a tough one. I think I tore it originally because I tried diving through a guy's legs and Drake Hayward just pancaked me, and that same situation kind of just hyperextended it. Then I felt it later playing ultimate frisbee, but yeah, so senior year finally getting on that. I know I'm kind of rambling on a little bit. That's all right. I went like 9-9. Same thing again. So obviously I've kind of had a bittersweet career, but at the same time, I feel like I've worked really hard to get to the places and like do the things that I've accomplished. And at the same time, that is something I take personally, as well as a lot of guys would have quit after 1 knee surgery, let alone 3. So, and then COVID, I think we had half of my class quit and then like almost the entire next class quit. So that's something that, regardless, I might not have the accolades or, the talent caliber of those guys, but I feel like I definitely got the grit and everything.
You got the heart.
Yeah, I think all those guys in that room know it. I might not be the most talented wrestler and I might not be an All-American or state champion, but they know that I can hang with them and they know that I'll be there right next to them at the end of the day. And, we'll do what it takes to get whoever's in the correct spot to get better and get the team win. So
true team player there.
I think it's a big thing for every kid to learn, especially too, because, that's something Jim would always say to us. He goes, I want you guys to know all of you were that guy in high school. None of there might be 1 or 2 of you here now. None of you are that guy anymore. And that's just something that we're, that first year of being in a college room, it was just, do I deserve to be here? I'm going to do everything to prove that, I can hang with these guys. My practice partners, one of my biggest partners is Max Schwabe. He's from Wisconsin. Schwabe's a 2-time state champion in wrestling, and he was a state champion in football, and he was the starting quarterback. And then I think he was a place winner in baseball. So he's just all around stud, has like a 3.85 or something too. So the kid's just good at everything. Yeah. So, and it's intimidating being around guys like that. You know, you're like, can I compete with these guys? And being in there day in, day out, you know, it really shows you like who you are. So it was kind of a cool experience in that way.
Absolutely. Oh my God. So, well, what are you up to these days now?
I just got back somewhat recently from an internship. So I graduated in May, and then I've worked at the distribution center in town for the last 3.5 years. So this summer I did an internship at the corporate office in Seattle for Costco.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So that was a cool thing. Nice resume builder, obviously. So I got corporate experience tucked under my belt now. I was out there, and obviously being in a distribution center, I understood logistics and traffic a lot more, so I dealt with that, and I got to learn, you know, some real world experience. So that was really good for me. And coming back, I've gone back to the distribution center. Right now, I'm interviewing with different Fortune 500 companies, trying to see where I can kind of squeeze in. But, you know, I think that's just another thing that translates. Like I said, like obviously my knee wasn't an easy thing, but, you know, it helps me a lot in the real world with applying for jobs, quite frankly. That's something that's not always the nicest thing, because I mean, going through high school and college, you can be a little cocky and be like, all right, I'm always going to get this job, I'm always going to get this scholarship or this starting spot. But you know, real world's a little different. No one cares that
you gotta work for it.
Yeah, no one necessarily cares that you were state champ if this guy's got 6 PhDs. So it's a little different type.
But
of
your work ethic sounds like you're gonna do well. I mean, you got the work
I hope
ethic.
so. Yeah, I hope to make some good money someday and have some stable income. But you know, it's piece by piece. Obviously, it's gradual. I think patience is a big thing that a lot of people my age take for granted. I think you got to have like a 5-year plan. You can't just want it in 6 months. So
right, that is right.
Extremely mature. That's awesome. Well, how about before we let you go here, any shout outs you want to make? You know, this is a big platform. There are literally dozens of people who watch this now. No, there's a couple hundred people that listen. I get a lot of feedback.
I'll say hi to a couple of my buddies, my college teammates. I'll shout out those guys. Max Schwabe, as I previously mentioned, Tanner Cook, Josh Piaski's a Stillwater boy. I'll say hi to Landon. I know he's over at NIU right now, so I think he was in town the other day. I didn't get to see him, but you know, say hi to Trevor Turf and Debo Mason. Those are a couple buddies that were national champs from Minnesota State, so that was really cool getting to be in the same room as those guys. High school partners, you know, Dylan, Parker Westfall. I haven't talked to him in years, but I think that's another guy that was a good influence at the time. I'll say hi to Peyton and Moen. I saw Moen the other night. I think I played COD with Peyton the other night too. So I know those guys are still kind of looming around too. But yeah, that's all I got. I've had great partners, and I've had the privilege of getting to watch all those guys and, you know, drill with very different wrestlers and different personalities. So I think it's something that's kind of helped me grow, and, you know, I just kind of hope to pass that on, whether that's in the real world or in wrestling. So
for sure. Oh, wow. Well, nice. Well, I want to thank you for being on here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your stories. I was out of wrestling, so I didn't know any of this. It was great to hear this.
Appreciate it.
Well, and I hope all of our wrestlers are watching that interview. Yes. Once again, you imparted quite a bit of wisdom there that we feel like we go blue in the face trying to say, but to hear it from, you know, a young guy like yourself who just got out of the sport is extremely important. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being here. I feel like there's definitely aspects of the sports that, you know, like I said, they translate to a lot of things. So just discipline's a big thing. You can't really teach people that. You can't teach them to be eager. So whatever way they got to go about it, I think it's definitely a good sport to pick up a couple of those traits.
Absolutely. Did we get that for our commercial? Like, boom, for wrestling in general? Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jerez.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And we'll be right back.